Alright, so this is the longer version of Onside for today's special edition, of course, because the Black Stars of Ghana are coming up against the Three Lions of England at the Boston Stadium, 20 o'clock GMT. And let's talk about that game, right? Because there's so much to talk about. So much. I did an earlier video, I spoke about what I expected to see in the game in terms of the lineups. Before I get back to that, I want us to look at some stories and the off the pitch things that are coming, influencing this game in one way or the other. But don't forget that these two teams have played only once in the past. That was in 2011. For those who remember, that game was played at the Wembley Stadium. Andy Carroll, of course, got that goal for England. But what makes that game so memorable was how Asamoah Gyan, through his individual brilliance, got that equalizer late on, and the Black Stars got a 1-1 draw. Very brilliant game that was. It wasn't a World Cup game, it was just a friendly game, but I still remember how people shouted on top of their lungs on that day when Asamoah Gyan got that equalizer. It felt more like a World Cup game, I wouldn't lie, and I still remember that game vividly. But this time, the context is different. This is the FIFA World Cup. The stakes are really high. You can't afford to make a mistake. The two teams are coming into this game having won their first games. England beat Croatia by 4-2, and then we saw the Black Stars beat Panama late on by 1-0. So both teams have 3 points, and it looks like a battle for the top spot in this game. For those who follow me on my socials, you'd realize that I've dubbed this game as the Battle of Nsamanko 2.0. I'll tell you a brief history about that war that was fought in 1824 in the Ashanti Kingdom. Now, for those who know their history, the Battle of Nsamanko was fought by the Asantes and the British. And this is how it went. The British, led by Sir Charles McCarthy, thought that the Asantes were being very troublesome. And when you look at the historical antecedents to that particular war, the Asantes also became very dominant in those times, conquering and annexing lands. And also they wanted to trade with the Portuguese in the coastal areas, so they also infiltrated the spaces of the Fantis, and they went in there and they troubled them a lot. So the Fantis, they coordinated with the British to fight in the Battle of Nsamanko, which became a very contentious battle. The Asantes, led by Asantehene Otumfuo Osei-Bonsu, were a very formidable group of people, right? Very strong, very active when it comes to war. And that battle, because of how it went, is something that I'm likening to this game that will be played between the Ghana Black Stars and their opponent England in Boston today. Before the war was fought, Sir Charles McCarthy, when he was putting his men together and they were meeting at the front lines, he thought that the Asantes had some factions within them that would want to defect. So when they were getting closer to the front lines, he asked his men to play God Save the Queen, and they played it. And after they played it, the Asantes responded by playing the war drums, right? Playing the war drums and also sounding the alarm to them that they were ready. So I mean, that in one way or the other was the national anthems that they just played amongst themselves. But the result of that war was that the Asantes, they beat the British, beat them mercilessly. And Asantehene Otumfuo Osei-Bonsu, he told Sir Charles McCarthy that when he killed him, he was going to use his skull as a mug, so to speak, to drink water, that kind of thing. Those times it was real conquest. It was very brutal. There was no space or chance for forgiveness. You went into the war and you made sure that you won your battles. The Asantes came out victorious because they beat the British. In fact, the Fantis had to flee, and the British, they lost because the firepower on that day was really heavy. Now, it was called Nsamanko because the British, after the war, admitted that the way the Asantes came at them, it was very difficult to deal with, and they literally came out of nowhere, and how they managed to meet them in the thick bushes was something they never really saw coming. So they likened it to the appearance of ghosts taking them by storm. So that's why they call it Nsamanko. So translated into English from Tree, that is the war of ghosts, right? Now, this is why I'm likening it to this game that will be played today. If Ghana get their day, if Ghana do all the right things, if Carlos Queiroz, the head coach, is able to read into the mind of Thomas Tuchel and pick out his tactical setup, especially once they begin the game and how they line up on the pitch, if he's able to read that well, he can take England by surprise. Even though we are the heavy underdogs in this game, he can really take England by surprise. And I wouldn't be surprised that by the time the game ends, Ghana would end up victorious, not because we necessarily had a very good game or played better than the English, but because we took advantage of our moments. And that is what this game is all about. When you're playing tournament football, especially from a Ghanaian context where we didn't prepare so well, where we sacked our coach just 2 months into the tournament, brought in a coach who didn't have any idea of what he wanted to do with the team. He just put up a team together, and he still has to use his experience on the day to try and get the best out of the team. When you also have a Ghana team that doesn't have Mohamed Kudus, doesn't have Mohamed Salisu, doesn't have Alexander Jiku, one of our 3 most experienced players, you are going into this tournament with your backs literally against the wall. In the first game, Thomas Partey didn't play. See all the allegations that they are leveling against him, right? So many things have not gone the way of the Black Stars, and it's easy for the boys to be taken aback psychologically, and their focus will be taken away from the game. They may not be able to, put themselves together to play this very, very important game. But again, the Black Stars are unbeaten in their second group games at major tournaments since 1998. That is a staggering statistic that could inure to the benefit of the Ghanaians if they take advantage of that, if they utilize it for psychological boost and tell themselves that, hey, we are going into this game, this is the record we have. Yes, England are colonial masters, we've only faced them once, we played a 1-1 draw. This is a tournament setting, anything could happen. Let's show up on the day, let's dedicate ourselves extra, let's give 110% on the pitch, let's die on the pitch, let's do everything on the pitch and leave here with our heads held up high, because this is what we are made up of. This is the Black Stars you're talking about. I think that if they approach it with this mentality, for all you know, we could take the English by surprise. Yes, I've seen a lot of prophecies. I've seen a lot of, should I say, things that are being said in favor of the Black Stars about how the game is going to eventually pan out. I am not one who is heavily reliant on prophecies in football. Of course, prophecy has its place, and I really appreciate it. I acknowledge that office when it comes to Christianity. But when it has to do with football, I'm not overly reliant on that, because football is literally science. And when it has to do with science, you need to do your homework well. You need to do the right things if you want to get the result. Ghana is going into this game as underdogs. There's no doubt about that, and there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. Because when you look at the English team and the squad depth they have, that is their major advantage that they have over the Black Stars, right? Most of their players play in the English Premier League. Most of our players are scattered around. And fun fact, in the just ended season, a couple of players in our setup went to relegation with their teams. Typical example is AJ Ogze. The contingent from AJ Ogze that played for the Black Stars in Elisha Owusu, Gideon Mensah, and also Marvin Senaya, they all were relegated. Right, Real Oviedo's Kwesi Sibo, who plays for the Black Stars, they were also relegated in the Spanish La Liga. I'm not even trying to use this as a way of speaking against the Black Stars, but I'm trying to put the contrast to, just look at the contrast between the two sides, right? Look at England again. Harry Kane, he is the lead marksman for the team. He can literally stand anywhere and shoot the ball into goal. He does it for fun, like it's nobody's business. So that's another goal scoring threat that they have. But take that away, in terms of tactics, look at who is on the bench for the English national team. Thomas Tuchel, highly astute football coach, level-headed, very meticulous, very pragmatic. He's a coach you don't want to take for granted. And I'm saying it again, if Carlos Queiroz really wants to get something from this game, he would have to get it right from the get-go. He cannot experiment anything in the first half like he's done in the game against Wales and in the game against Panama. You need to have your best foot forward in this game. You have to do all the right things from minute 1, and you have to get the right things done on time. I'm saying this because I think the Black Stars, if they get an early goal in the game, it helps them to quickly settle down and take control of the game. Of course, the English are going to come in really strongly because they have the depth, they have the firepower, they have the names. If you have Jude Bellingham on the pitch, if you have Bukayo Saka on the pitch, if you have Elliot Anderson on the pitch, you have Harry Kane on the pitch, if you have McGee on the pitch, right? And you have people like maybe Morgan Rogers on the pitch, or even Marcus Rashford. They are big names. They are big names that we may not necessarily have the names to match up to, but we need to do the right things, and we have to do them well. We have to do them fast. with all this out of the way, I want to speak about what the coaches said ahead of the game. Now, Thomas Tuchel was asked, he said that yes, of course, sorry for Ghana, or unfortunately for us, they are going to come into this game very motivated. Very motivated in the sense that they know the optics going into this game. They know that Ghana has also some motivational factor attached to what we are coming with because of everything that has happened behind the scene over the last few months as far as this game is concerned. So he's also saying that the team is going to come in really strongly. Now, Thomas Tuchel, after saying that, Carlos Queiroz also says that yes, we're going to meet the three lions of England, but we also, as Ghana, have 33 million lions. He's simply talking about the fact that the whole nation is going to be behind the Ghanaian team, which we saw in the game against Panama. And the game against England, because of the opponent involved, these are colonial masters, it looks like we really want to make a statement and we really want to show them what we are made up of. So these are the positions of the two coaches. At the end of the day, the tactics will show when the game starts. And I've already put out my lineup out. Like I said, I want to have Atizigi in post. He's more experienced between himself and Benjamin Asari. Benjamin Asari, when he came on in the game against Panama, had a good game. He had a very, very solid performance. He made some key saves. It was really good. But Atizigi is more of an experienced goalkeeper between the two. And if he's fit, I put him in goal because he's going to really help us so much. I'll put Marvin Senaya at right back. I'll have my two centre backs in Jerome Opoku and also Jonas Ajete. Then I would have Gideon Mensah at left back. In the middle of the pitch, I'm going to have Thomas Partey. He sits as the controller. He sets the tempo, picks the right passes, is able to dictate the pace of the game, whether we need to be very quick in our transitions or we need to slow down the game and now spot the right passes to take. I think he's going to do that. And coming into the game, having missed out in the first game, I think it's going to be very, very important for us. Then I'm going to have Kwesi Sibo and Caleb Irenchi also in the midfield. I don't want to necessarily start with Elisha Owusu because between Elisha Owusu and Kwesi Sibo, I'd prefer Kwesi Sibo. He's more solid. I think he'll pick more tackles more carefully this time around when he's spoken to, and he's a bit more flexible between himself and Elisha Owusu. Of course, both of them are quite rigid, but Elisha Owusu seems to be more rigid for me. He's not able to really turn and carry the ball forward. I trust Kwesi Sibo to do that more for me in this game. Then in my wide areas, I'm going to have Jordan Ayew play down the right. I'm going to have Brandon Thomas Asante play down the left, and I'll have Antoine Semenyo play down the middle. I'm saying this for a couple of reasons. Now, Antoine Semenyo, Brandon Asante, they have very good relationships between the two. In camp, they are really good friends, and it's simply because of their upbringing and where they grew up. They grew up in the UK. You want to have both of them on the pitch against the English because in some way, the English are going to respect Antoine Semenyo. Maybe to some extent, Thomas Partey, because his teammate in Declan Rice will also be in the heart of the midfield for the English team today. But let's have Antoine Semenyo and Brandon Thomas Asante. The understanding between the two and what we saw in the latter stages in the game against Panama, I want that same thing to come to bear in this game right from the start because it's very important. Jordan Ayew, maybe a lot may disagree with me, but this is it about Jordan Ayew. His hold-up play will be really needed in this game because when we win the ball and we are transiting, we'll need him to be able to hold up play and get more men forward so that he can now give those incisive passes that would help us to be able to get some shots at goal and possibly one goal or two in the back of the net. So Jordan Ayew, but he needs to be spoken to. He cannot delay the game so much. We need the game to flow when we win possession because we're not going to have so much of the ball. The English team really thrive also dominant when they transit and also with set pieces. In the game against Croatia, they had an XG of 2.33 from set pieces. And you saw how brilliant that goal was scored from Harry Kane when Declan Rice brought in that outswinger, that he came right at the edge of the 6-yard box to header that ball in the opposite direction, and they just couldn't stop that from entering into the back of the net. So the set piece structure from England must be looked at because they have about 3 or 4 different structures to that, and I saw all of them in the game against Croatia. Super important. We need to track all of those things and stop them. So it would also mean that the back line of the Ghana Black Stars would have to be so alert throughout the game. We cannot have Jerome Opoku and Jonas Ajete just go long just anyhow, because when the turnover is forced and we don't win the second balls, it means that quickly we would have to now find a way of putting our shapes together. But the whole point is that we cannot afford to just give the ball away anyhow. So before they pick those long balls, or before they pick the passes, they would have to be very, very cautious of exactly what they're doing before they do that. Then also, I saw a lot of Jonas Adjete moving forward in the game against Panama. It was for a good reason. He would go in sometimes to try and go get the header, but he needs to recover really quickly if he wants to do that against England. You cannot just do that anyhow. You'd have to be very calculated, because England, they have so much intensity that are going to introduce into the game. And if you leave your back, they're going to pass through you. They're going to get 2 or 3 goals behind the net before you realize it. Those are mistakes we can't afford to make. Overall, the communication between the team on the day is so important, especially the back line. Then in some instances, I would want to see some total football. So all attack, all defense. Because I know that we cannot sit in a compact low block and soak the pressure throughout the game. That is impossible. Because it only takes time until Harry Kane stands maybe 25, 30 yards out and shoots into the back of the net. So you want to tackle them, you want to match them a bit, right? Not toe to toe, but keep it compact in the mid block, right? And try and close some of the spaces. And when the English use their wide areas, they often try as much as possible to get the ball on the right more, because when the ball goes into touch and it's a corner kick, they have a Declan Rice who can bring in an outswinger, and Harry Kane comes from the back to do some box crashing and headers it a goal. So all of these things are factors. All of these things are tactical, maneuvers that England can use to score us. Ghana on the day would have to rely on the moment, and I've said it, I'm going to say it again. We will have to rely on the moment, catching the English on a counter attack. And when we get that counter attack, we don't misuse it. We don't waste too much time on the ball, so that the English have more men behind them. Now we are, caught wanting. We don't know what to do. So to predict, honestly, if you ask me, I think the Black Stars go ahead to win this by 2-1. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends in a draw, but if it's even going to end in a draw, we're going to see a high scoring draw, so probably 2-2. Or let's say a 1-1. But trust the Black Stars to go on to prove to the world what we are made up of, especially when all the odds are against us. Nobody's giving us a dog's chance in this game, trust me. But I think the Black Stars can show up and really get something from this game. And it's going to be a very interesting one. The whole world is going to be watching because of all the things that have gone on behind the scene concerning this game. But what do you think? What do you think is going to be the scoreline? Also predict your scoreline. And yeah, let's have an interactive session in the comment section. I don't want to take too much time because the game is going to be happening very soon, and I want you to just relax, eat some food before the game begins. And you can see that I'm wearing white, right? Today I'm not wearing the Black Stars jersey. I'll tell you why I'm wearing the white after the game is done, so stay tuned. When the game is done, I'm going to come with another video. Let's get ready for that game. It's the Battle of Nsamanko 2.0 happening at the Boston Stadium, 20 o'clock GMT. Let's shoot for the Black Stars. Go Ghana!